This happened when I was little and had gone back to my grandmother's hometown on a holiday. Arriving at grandma's house, which I only visited once a year, I immediately got super excited and went out to play with my brother. Unlike the city, the air was so refreshingly tasty. Bathed in the bracing wind, my brother and I raced around the rice paddies. When the sun had fully risen, and it was almost noon, the wind suddenly died down. But then an awfully muggy, sluggish wind started blowing. I complained in annoyance. It's already so hot. Why is this warm wind blowing? Upset that the nice breeze was ruined. But my brother had been looking in a different direction the whole time. Over there was a scarecrow. When I asked what he was looking at, he said, "No, beyond that," and peered even harder. Curious, I squinted toward the far end of the rice paddy. And sure enough, I could make it out. What was that? From so far I couldn't really tell. But a white object about human-sized was running around. Yet nothing else was around except rice paddies. No people nearby either. I felt odd for a moment, but interpreted it like this. Oh, it must be a new kind of scarecrow. Definitely. There's never been moving scarecrows before, so some farmer or someone came up with it. It's probably moving from the wind blowing just now. My brother seemed convinced by my spoken analysis, but that expression instantly vanished. The wind had stopped dead. Yet the mysterious white object kept on squirming as before. Surprised, my brother said, "Hey, it's still moving. What the heck is that thing?" Unable to stand his curiosity, he went back home and returned with binoculars. Somewhat excited, he said, "I'll look first." "You wait a sec," then eagerly peered through the binoculars. Suddenly my brother's face changed. He turned pale as a sheet, broke out in cold sweat, and finally dropped the binoculars he was holding. Despite my fear at my brother's transformation, I asked, "What did you see?" He answered slowly, "Do. Ain't. Lo. Oh." It was no longer my brother's voice. He tottered unsteadily back home. I immediately tried to pick up the dropped binoculars to take a look at whatever had stunned my brother blue. But hearing his words, I lost my nerve. Yet I was curious. From far away it just looked like an odd white object squirming. A bit peculiar, but nothing scarier. But my brother. No help for it, I had to see. I'd confirm just what terrified my brother so, as I reached for the binoculars. My grandfather came dashing over in a big panic. Before I could ask what was up, Grandpa forcefully said, "You must not look at that white thing." "Did you see it? Did you look through these binoculars?" I answered somewhat shaken, "No. Not yet." Grandpa said, "Thank goodness." Clearly relieved, and broke down weeping on the spot. I was brought back home, confused. Returning, everyone was crying. Because of me? No, something else. Looking closely, only my brother was smiling. Crazily, twisting and flailing around erratically like that white object. Seeing my brother like that instilled even greater fear than the white thing. When we went home, Grandma said, "It may be best to leave your brother here to live more comfortably. Our place is cramped and word would get around. Keeping him here and releasing him to the rice paddy after a few years is probably best." Hearing those words, I wailed loudly. My brother, as he was before, was gone. Even if I met him again next year, that thing wouldn't be my brother anymore. Why did this? We were playing together happily just the other day. Why? I desperately wiped my tears as I got in the car and left my hometown. As Grandpa and Grandma waved, my utterly changed brother seemed to wave at me for a moment. From the departing car, I looked through the binoculars, trying to glimpse my brother's face, and saw he was definitely crying. His expression was smiling, but it was the first and last sad smile my brother had never shown before. Then as soon as we went around the curve, he disappeared from view. But tears flowing, I kept peering through the binoculars. You'll return to normal someday, right? Thinking that, while reminiscing about the brother, I gazed out at the unbroken greenery of the rice paddies. Recalling memories with my brother, I just kept staring through the binoculars. That's when it happened. I saw up close the very thing I knew I must not look at. Squirming.